Hey, look out. It's Faith Talk Live. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
You know, we've rescheduled this guy so many times. I'm really surprised that he showed up. It must mean that he's a great guy. He is really a great guy because he and his team are doing so many amazing things around the globe. You are sent Nathan Sloan, pastor, executive director of Upstream Sending, and author. This is a 9-week small group study that helps churches prepare their members to make Jesus known everywhere they go. Nathan, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you, guys. No problem with rescheduling. I'm always happy to hop on a call.
Jesus said, what did Jesus say? Save the best to last. So there you go.
Okay. Hopefully I'm not your last guest.
Yeah, we hope so too.
So let's talk a little bit. I didn't realize you were a pastor. You said that right before we went live. Your plate is extremely full. You've got a wife and you've got kids as well. Gosh, how do you spin all those plates? I guess you just figure it out. Thank you for your time. So this book, this study, you being a pastor, is this something that you've been teaching on, that you've been chewing on, that you've been doing, obviously, as executive director of Upstream Sending, and you're like, you know what? Let's get this in the hands of the local church. And this is really not as complicated as we've made it, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, I've been in this role at Upstream for about a year and a half, starting kind of a new type of sending organization. But I wrote this book in the context of my church. I saw that our people needed to be discipled toward the nations. It wasn't just going to magically happen. So creating these resources, I was building it in the church. I was testing it and trying it and adjusting it as we needed. And over a course of 3 years of doing that, I realized we had a curriculum that could really benefit lots of churches.
Now, as you sat down to write this, it's a 9-week study, or at least in the study guide, with leaders' notes and everything. What is it that you want people to walk away with as they read it and as they go through it? I mean, obviously, we're told that we are sent. We're supposed to go out and make disciples of all nations. What is it that you want folks to walk away with?
Yeah, I can think of 2 core things. One is, Dan, not everyone actually believes that. I think maybe they give lip service to the fact that we're all called to make Jesus known. But one of the foundational idea of this book is this idea that every single person who follows Jesus, their very identity has been changed. When they become children of God, they become sent ones. It's a reflection of who we are in the family. So the Father and the Spirit sent the Son out into the incarnation, mission on the world to live and to die and to resurrect on our behalf. He was living on mission to carry out God's redemptive plan. And then he even said, I need to go away so that the Holy Spirit can come. That was part of the plan, that the triune God sent the Spirit into the world to bring conviction, to move us out on mission, to do so many beautiful, wonderful things that we experience as believers, as the church. And then that triune God, the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, sends us out on mission. So I believe, and this book teaches, we can't experience the good life, the life that Jesus would have us to experience, unless we're giving our life away, unless we're making disciples.
Nathan,
yeah.
Go ahead, Nathan. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. So, and then the actual writing of it, as I was rubbing shoulders with other mission pastors, we all kind of realized there wasn't a resource for the local church. There were some really good academic resources, really long, fairly expensive. Were doing really good things, but it wasn't quite a fit for the local church context. There were other resources that were overly simplistic. They weren't providing enough depth that we wanted. So I was like, man, what if we could create something in the middle? 9 weeks, the session's about an hour and a half long. I mean, it goes from biblical basis of missions to missions history. It rides on the surface and then it goes deep some. But that was the whole idea. It was created by a local church for local churches.
Nathan Sloan, the book is called You Were Sent. It's a 9-week small group study or Bible study. Really good. I love that you aimed at the local church. That's where your heart is. Of course, global too. It's discipleship. Isn't discipleship messy, right? We read that we're to go to make disciples, and then when we go to make disciples, it's like, wow, this is really hard. And our church culture in the past, I think we've come back around our church culture was, disciples, let's just show up and have a good time. But then
Mhm.
when it comes down to making disciples, there's some blood, sweat, and tears in that, right? But that's what we're called to do.
Yeah, I think you hit the word messy. Discipleship is messy. I mean, the ministry is discipleship. It's investing one on one, one on many, but it's investing in the lives of people. And we're just messed up creatures, right? The fall has done a wicked work in our lives, and the Lord is redeeming us. He's sanctifying us, but we're all going to be a little sideways until we get to heaven. Whether it be overseas, whether it be in a mega church in Atlanta, whether it be a tiny little church in a rural area, people are messy, and that's what ministry is.
Now, just in the title alone, it indicates, it says finding your place in God's global mission. Well, that implies that there's a place for me as well. It's not just certain people. It's not just the mission team. It's not just the pastors. It's all of us. We have a place in this. Is that one of the things you want people to really grasp onto?
Yeah, the whole thing is built. One of the goals was to break down this strange dichotomy we've created between the mission we're called to live out as believers, no matter where we plant our feet, and global missions. So there is a distinction, right? Language, culture. That's my world is global missiology. But what happens is we can put missionaries or missions on a pedestal. And what that allows an everyday Christian to do is to isolate themselves, to give them an excuse not to engage in God's global mission.
Mm-hmm.
When the reality is we're all called to live on mission. And as we're living on mission, God leads some of us to global mission. So the study, the intent is to give us this basis of what is mission, how do we live on mission, and then to have an eye for some global realities. I'd say 75% of this resource is global, understanding what's happening around the world, understanding culture, all kinds of stuff like that, but with local application, how to share your faith, how to make disciples, those kinds of things.
Nathan Sloan, you were sent a new study that helps churches prepare their members to make Jesus known everywhere they go. The response, Nathan, probably mixed a bit. I know, I think there's an excitement in one sense because you break it down and make it practical, make it important, first of all, and then practical. But what's been the response from folks so far?
I think it's been good. I mean, the reality is, as I was writing this, I had a host of churches who were kind of ready for a resource like this. So this is written for community learning, meaning I've had friends who've bought the book and were really excited to read it. And they're like, oh, it's just hard to read. I'm like, oh yeah, it's a community study. You can't like just read it from beginning to end. But the churches and the small groups and the Bible studies who've taken it and have really walked through it, I think they found it helpful. I mean, basically the structure is there's an article before every 9-week session. That article is 3 to 5 pages, so it takes 10 or 15 minutes to read. It prepares your heart, gives you some grounding. There's about an hour study. There's some interaction. There's discussion. There's some case studies, things like that. And then there's heart and application questions at the end. So it's not just knowledge based, but if these things are true, how do we apply these in our heart? And we're asking those questions in a community of people.
Nathan, as you were writing this, did God kind of change your heart and mind in any way? Did he reveal something to you as you were going through, studying and preparing for writing this book?
Yeah, it was really fascinating. I think anytime we write or create something, it is an outworking of who God has made us and who's making us. So if you read it, you're going to get a lot of who I am. Like there's an article on suffering and how suffering both refines us and God uses a mission. And that comes out of significant suffering in my own life. So to be able to write that is really therapeutic. I'm able to understand my own story more. The missions history section. Some people may wonder why I would devote a whole section to missions history, but I just came to the conclusion even more that missions history is not something to run past, but it's something to learn from. We're repeating the same lessons, the same mistakes. So there's things like that. As I was writing it was giving me an understanding, and it's reinforcing these things that God has taught me all along the way.
Nathan Sloan, pastor, executive director of Upstream Sending, author, and Beard Brother. Right there.
Not as good as yours, though, man.
Nice. I love the color of yours, though. I'm losing mine. Looking good.
That's
Nathan
all wisdom,
Sloan.
Rick. All that. It's all wisdom.
It's all wisdom. It certainly is. Hey, pick up. It's a great guide, and as Nathan said, talks about globally and locally as well, which can really help us all. 9-week small group study, Bible study. Really, really cool. Nathan, thank you so much. We'd love to get you back on the show. Maybe in the spring, if you're up for it. We'd love to see you.
Yeah, anytime I can help. I'd love to be a part of what you guys are doing. Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Good stuff. Check it out. You Are Sent. Nathan Sloan, newgrowthpress.com is the perfect place to go. Let's take a break. We'll be right back. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
This is Faith Talk Live.